Hi everyone! For Lunar New Year, I made pineapple buns, aka BOLO BAO, aka Melon Pan, aka there are a lot of names and regional variants for these fluffy buns with a cookie topping. These are one of my favorite Asian pastries, and I'm so excited to learn and share how to make these for the first time. First, we're going to start with the custard. This is a straightforward creme pâtissière or vanilla pastry cream. First, combine 5 egg yolks with a quarter cup of sugar. When the sugar is dissolved, whisk in a quarter cup of cornstarch. In a small pot, I'm going to bring 1.5 cups of whole milk and half a cup of heavy cream to a simmer. Whisk in another quarter cup of sugar. When the sugar is dissolved, turn off the heat and slowly whisk in some of the hot milk mixture to the egg mixture to begin to temper the eggs. Whisk constantly to avoid your eggs from scrambling. Once the egg mixture has been combined, add everything to the pot and turn the heat back on to thicken. This will happen pretty quickly. Be sure to constantly whisk so the bottom doesn't clump or burn. Once thickened, add in a quarter cup of butter and a splash of vanilla. Whisk until everything is combined and silky. And now we have our pastry cream. We'll cover and chill until it's set. Make sure to cover the top layer of the pastry cream with plastic wrap so a skin doesn't form. Now we can begin making our dough. Any milk bread recipe will do. Today I opted for a quicker recipe with no dough starter, but if you're looking for these to last a few days, I definitely recommend a recipe that includes a tangzhong dough starter. I'll link down below for more information. For this recipe, in a stand mixer or large bowl if you're kneading by hand, combine 1 cup of whole milk, 2/3 cup of heavy cream, a large egg, sugar, and a packet of dry active yeast. Allow your yeast to activate and slowly begin to add in your flour mixture. For this recipe, I'm using a combination of bread flour, all-purpose flour, and cornstarch. Last but not least, we'll add a pinch of salt. After the dough is kneaded, let it proof for 1 hour. After an hour, my dough doubled in size. As I began rolling out my dough, I could feel it resisting me a lot, and it was still pretty elastic. This means the gluten in the dough is not fully relaxed. As you can see, when I press into it, it bounced back a little more than I'd like it to. I placed it back in the bowl and stuck it in the fridge for another 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I still found the dough a little too tense to roll out. Do you see how it's resisting me? I let it rest for another 20 minutes in the fridge. Finally, after this rest, I poked it and the dough held its shape. Now the dough is relaxed enough and we can roll it out to divide and shape into our buns. Yes, I know, I still don't have a food scale, so I'm dividing it by eye again. It's gonna be okay. I promise. I divided the dough into 12 buns. I think I could have gone smaller for sure, but now we're each going to get a giant fluffy bun all to ourselves. Now that our dough is made, we can move on to the final component of these buns, the crackly sugar cookie topping. To 1.25 cups of all-purpose flour, I'm going to add a quarter cup of dry milk powder, 2/3 cup sugar, a half teaspoon of baking soda, and a quarter teaspoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of milk, 1 egg yolk, a quarter cup of butter, definitely make sure it's room temperature and your butter is softened, and a splash of vanilla. Combine all of these until it comes together in a ball. It's going to be pretty dry, so whisk isn't going to work. It'll slowly come together. Once it does, knead it together with your hands and chill until your bread dough is ready. Slapping is optional. Now we're ready to assemble our buns. Roll out each dough ball and fill with a spoonful of custard. You want to make sure your custard is chilled and thick. If it's runny at all, it's not set, and this process is going to be a sloppy mess. Pinch the border of your dough together to seal in the custard. You want to pinch the dough together until all seams are completely sealed, with no possible exit for the custard. Make sure to not overfill your buns. I could have probably added more custard to my buns, but I wanted to err on the safe side and make sure I'd be able to seal all of them. Once all the buns are filled, set them aside to cover with the sugar cookie and proof. Divide your sugar cookie dough into 12 pieces and roll out between plastic wrap. This dough is incredibly crumbly, which is great for baking on top of our buns, but difficult to handle. Using plastic wrap will help you control rolling out your dough and keep it together. Place the rolled out cookie dough on top of the buns. This part is optional, but you can lightly score the top of your buns to force the cookie to crack in the signature pineapple bun style. Do you know this is how they get their name? Not because there's pineapple in them, but because they look like pineapples. What do you think? Do they? After proofing for 30 minutes, these are ready to go into the oven and be baked. These are going into a 350-degree oven for 15 minutes. And look at these big, beautiful, fluffy buns. These might not look super uniform or all that pineapple-y, but I can promise you these tasted like they were straight out of a Chinese bakery. The cookie on top was crunchy while the bun was soft and fluffy. The custard was sweet and creamy. All three components balance each other out so well. These are my absolute favorite, and I'm so happy to say these came out as good as the store-bought ones. The recipe seems daunting because of all the steps, but I promise you the whole process was super easy and not that complicated. I hope you have an amazing year and that the year of the rat brings you much good fortune, prosperity, and excellent baked goods.